What's good, everybody? Pete here at Spawn Fly Fish. Got a nice big cup of coffee, lots of bright colored materials. We're thinking very big salmon, and we're thinking prawn jigs. Yep, tying another jig. So by all means, grab your vise, grab your tools. Let's get ready to have some fun. As I get some thread going here, and this thread, of course, happens to be 6/0 fire fluorescent orange. But 140, 200, 240, all that's going to be groovy. But this jig that I'm tying on today is a Maxi jig in the glow orange. And I mean, it does very much glow. Charge that bad boy up in your dashboard, whatever, hit it with a UV light for a couple seconds, and it's going to hold the charge for quite a while. And that's what we want. We want something very, very visible. And so we come with the prawn. And let's get a tail going here, just a Spawn Polliwog tail in orange. And gonna do, again, roughly a hook length here. And for those of you who are like me and enjoy looking at all baits and lures, not just flies, I get ideas from the bass world, jigs, you name it, any sort of lure. And one thing I've always been fascinated by is the use of especially cured prawn and just how bright and vibrant the color is coming off of that. So that's what we're going to try to emulate today. Of course, we're not going to have the stink factor that is involved with curing that, but that's okay. We're going to make it work. Got a lot to put into this fly, or into this jig, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call it a jig, I guess. Just said the name or word fly way too many times here on the vise, so it's tough to remember all that. Gonna incorporate the legs just like we did on the last jig, but again, this is just gonna break up the monotony of a solid colorway. We don't want that. We want a lot going on, so hence the tipped legs. So these are crazy tipped legs, and this is white pearl tipped with fluorescent orange. We're gonna do 8 legs, and if you watched the last video, we're going to do 2 legs per, and this is where it gets funny, bottom, top, side, side. So 2 of those veiled over the thread on each of those locations, and it will give us not 8 legs coming off, but the effect of 16. Does it matter? No, it's not that the fish can count. It's just in the water, this produces so much movement. There's non-stop action. And as far as chasing, big beefy fish, Anadromous species, all that good stuff, movement is key. Yes, color is very important as well. But even if you have the wrong color and that thing's moving in the right way, I don't know what they say to the fish. In my own head and in my own time, I come up with all kinds of goofy stuff of what they might be saying. None of it's, of course, going to be accurate, but I like to think that prawn or jig or the fly, the lure, whatever you want to, I like in my mind to think it's insulting or, doing the nana kind of deal under the water. And it just kind of gets under that fish skin and irritates them just enough to where they go, you know what? I'm tired of seeing this thing in my water. This is my pool, and I'm going to get rid of this threat. And they just come over and do what they do. They don't have hands, so they can't, grab it and throw it. They have a mouth full of big old jagged teeth because they're in their spawning phase. Guess what? Those teeth know what to do. And so we are sometimes not feeding fish because they are hungry. We are looking for a reactionary sort of strike, and that's kind of what we're going for here. I've always joked in the shop as far as what I like to throw. If I look at a fly or a lure and it hurts me to look at it, and it's either offensive or the colors are just almost obnoxious, that's the one I want. Because again, the fish are going to tell you very quickly yes or no, but that's where I'm going to start anyway. Make sure they know I'm offering them something, and then base off those triggers and reactionary strikes And next thing you know, you're the one with the bent rod and calling for the net. It's a good feeling. There we have it. A chandelier of legs, if you will. And I love those hot tip legs. And let's just keep going, or I'll talk for 30 minutes on those. What would a prawn be without some eyes? And yep, if you think, man, those are probably going to get lost in this fly or in this jig, yes and no. So let me just tie these all the way in. Now, you caught me. This is the bottom of our jig. We don't want it on the bottom. We want it on what will be the top. It would just make more sense, at least for my brain. And a lot of times that doesn't matter, but for today we're going to pretend it does. So let's do this. Let's put it on the proper side of the hook. And again, so back to what we were saying. Is this going to get lost? Is it? Maybe. Is it something you absolutely have to have in this jig? Probably not. Not going to make all the difference. But when this is all wetted down and you strip it, condenses, and then the pause portion, as this drops, all those fibers open up. Guess what they're going to see? Those eyes. So if they weren't quite convinced, again, it's just one more element that offers a possible trigger. And if this is a 3-minute jig, then no, you're not going to do that. This is not a 3-minute jig. This is pretty involved. And so we'll take that extra step. And if you wonder what goes on in my, fly tying, jig tying, and all my boxes, it is that extra step, right? It's not, oh, we could get by with just the bare minimum. Of course, there are days when that is the case, and embrace those days because, tying guide style flies, fast flies, it's all fun. However, not always. Sometimes we'll put that little extra effort in, and I like to think of this one as that little bit of extra. So now I've got some barred Voodoo fibers, and I want to treat these much like another leg as far as length and all that, and then some. So I want these to, we're going to incorporate, of course, the Ostrich and Peacock again, and they're going to go 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch past those legs, and we'll just do the same thing with these barred Voodoo fibers. And these are, I want to say clear barred black. Let's see here, black barred clear, forgive me. All the right notes, just not quite the right song. And let's just flip this guy over. So we're not going to go crazy and do all 4 sides. We're just going to do top and bottom with the barred Voodoo fiber. If you really wanted to go crazy, you could do all 4 sides. I don't really think it's necessary though. Again, this is one of those elements that just looks good. I love Voodoo fibers. I think they're very hot product and fish catchers. But again, this is the larger picture that we're thinking as far as got their eyes in there. So that's, that's a good thing. But guess what happens with this barring? Sometimes this will mimic the illusion of some sort of pupil or eyeball. And of course, just adding triggers. And that right there is a hot mess. And that alone would probably entice quite a few fish. But let's do what we do, folks. Let's make this thing amazing. Got some 2-toned rabbit strips in Crosscut. This one is, let me make sure I got this right, hot orange on the top. The hot orange over fluorescent orange. Amazing. Again, we are going bright. And let's call it borderline obnoxious. Borderline painful to look at. And make sure we really get this tied in very, very well. Again, we are feeding this jig to some toothy, mean, angry critter. And we are going to go with the Anadromous EP brush here in fluorescent orange. And I'm going to get this tied in on the little metal core here, like so. And then I will get my fingers wet and I will sort of train the fibers of the brush so that as we wrap the brush with the rabbit, we don't have a lot of unruliness. We're going to have all these fibers going exactly the way a feather would, meaning we would pull both sides of the fibers and meet them up like so, and pull them all toward the back. So now we bring our rabbit, lay that brush right on top, lay that wire right on top of the leather, and there you go. That's the effect. And when we wrap this, that sparkly goodness of the EP brush will be inside as the rabbit lays on the outside. And so you get a gentle, albeit very definite representation of a good amount of flash, but it's not going to mask or take anything away from that flow of the rabbit. And again, using the EP Anadromous brush versus a sparkle brush, it does give a little extra volume to the body itself. And in the strip, you don't lose as much of that profile. And so on a bigger jig like what we've got rocking today, I do want to take full advantage of anything that's going to give me just a slightly bigger, beefy profile. And so a little bit more material in that Anadromous brush, a little springier, stiffer fiber, and adds volume. That's what we want. At this point, just gonna tackle this guy and strap everything down as securely as you possibly can. Think big fish. You don't want to tie a really crazy fly or jig and then have it ripped apart after you catch one. That's no good. You want that thing to last and last. You want it to have some scar on it, throw it back in the box. And before you're getting ready for next year, you can reminisce a bit and go, oh, I remember that day or that week where this was the hot one, or all that good stuff. Just gets you a little bit more in the spirit, if you will. So now we got to find where our little wire core is, and we're just going to mash that down like so. And we're not going to get super cute with the trimming of that tiny amount of leather there from the rabbit. I can live with it if you can live with it. But we do have our tiny comb. And if you're wondering, this is the Stomfo combo. So this is a dub brush and comb combo. Pretty inexpensive, but boy, does it come in handy. Got some stray fibers sticking to that jig head. It's okay. Look at this. I mean, that's pretty hot already, and we're not even finished. I'd eat it. That's a good start. Let's get into the fun stuff now. Keeping in mind, this is the top, and I'm going to turn her over. So now we're looking at the bottom, but our vise is properly oriented at this point. And let's get into the ostrich portion of this jig. This one's going to get a little bit more involved with the ostrich. So what I have are 2 fibers from an ostrich plume that is dyed hot orange, and then I've got 4 fibers from a Spirit River ostrich plume that is dyed red. Now the difference is, for whatever reason, the UV2, the Spirit River ostrich is very thin fibered, so when they bleached that, it shortens up a lot of the lengthy fibers coming off of that. However, I'm not too concerned with those little fibers. I'm concerned with the coloration here. And so by combining 4 of those red that aren't really bright red, they're more of a pastel, with the 2 orange, I'm going to get this combined cured shell sort of coloration is the goal. And should work out just fine. And again, we're basing this off that body color, that underbody that is the rabbit, even though that's the body, and sitting inside of all this goodness. And so the full coloration is what we have to keep in mind, not just one element. How do you get good at that? Well, I suggest tying thousands and thousands of jigs or flies, or whatever your weapon of choice happens to be. Spend some time on that vise, get to know it very well, and by the time you do, you'll have a much better grasp on what a color scheme is going to end up looking like versus having to tie it 10 times, you know, to get the right coloration. It just gets better as you go. More time in the saddle, as we say. And again, these fibers are all reaching roughly quarter to half inch past where our legs ended. Keep that in mind if you want to keep these proportions the same as what I am tying. One more chunk of ostrich to go. And again, just a friendly reminder, 2 hot orange ostrich fibers, 4 red ostrich fibers, but not bright red. If you have a bright red ostrich, I will cut that back and do maybe 3 and 3, 3 orange, 3 red, maybe even 4 orange and 2 red if you have a really strong red. Don't want it going too red on us. We want it just right. And what does that mean? Well, it's different for each one of us. So make this yours, is what I'm getting at. So now we're going to go into some peacock. For this, I'm just using orange. This is Nature Spirit peacock. So it has been bleached and then dyed. And so we did the top, bottom, side, and it leaves us 4 spaces on the diagonals. And those diagonals are exactly where I'm going to tie in the peacock fibers. Get them in like so. Nothing to it. Well, tying these crazy jigs, they look very daunting when you see a bunch of them or a box full, and you go, well, that's just too much time. But when you think about how short and precious these salmon seasons are you kidding me? Like a few extra minutes of prep and effort is going to be so rewarded on a tough day on the river. And if you're catching fish, it's easy to forget that it's nasty, it's cold, it's raining, you're wet, you're miserable. Nope, you're just in the fish. You don't even realize what's going on. Before you know it, in this part of the country, sometimes winter can be a little daunting. But if you're catching a lot of fish and you're maybe spending more time on the vise to catch even more fish, you see, next thing you know, it's springtime and you're going, man, I can't wait for that nasty weather to get back. It's a real thing. It happens. I've seen it. It's happened to me. I used to love the sunshine and beautiful weather, and now, nah. Give you this gray sky, a little bit of rain here and there. That's a good day. And there's our last bit of peacock tied in. I'm telling you, we have some kind of beautiful jig going on already here. Might as well finish her up. All we need to do is add a collar. Now for this collar, I am going the same mentality as the last jig and how I finish a lot of jigs and a lot of big flies, meaning 2 feathers of Marabou. And let me just find my little cutout spot here, my tie-ins. There we go. So I've got these stacked already on top of each other, but these are fluorescent steelhead orange on the bottom, and on the top I've got fluorescent steelhead pink. So again, that steelhead pink is a little different. Got some red quality to it, I guess, for lack of a better term. But once you wrap these together, again, we're keeping in mind the coloration of a cured prawn. And if you haven't seen one, by all means, please do yourself a favor and look that up on the old Google machine. Pretty bright is what I'm getting at. I'm such a fan of that look. Get some of that fluff out of our way, and we can start to train all these fibers back out over the hook bend. And as we get that where we want it, keep all that goodness together, just making sure those quills stay very friendly as we wrap. And just take your time. Don't trap a bunch of fiber. There we go. Nothing to it. We're going for 2 full wraps, so that would be 1 wrap. And then this will be our second wrap. And you can see just how pretty and beautiful that coloration is. At least I think it's really amazing. And I'm just going to create a sort of cleaner V against the quills and eliminate any of the fibers that we don't need to be involved in this. Just going to make it a lot easier for you to get a good tie down. And then, of course, if you get a better tie down, it's going to be cleaner and stronger. And that is exactly what we are going for. Like so. There's our little half turn, if you will. So we'll call that 2.2 wraps of both those feathers. And now, one good way to get all this stuff out of your way so you don't trap the wrong fibers, meaning the good ones, just a little bit of water on your fingertips, get all that stuff out of your way. Look at that. Trim all that goodness out very cleanly, nothing to it. I'm going to turn this back over now. And before we start wrapping everything down to solidify, let's get that handy comb out one more time and just brush ever so gently. Everything that we tied in previously will stay in place if you tied it in properly. So you're not going to, dislodge any of the fibers. You're not going to rake out a piece of peacock or anything crazy like that. Just kind of relax everything into place and to where it's supposed to be. And then we can finish with a good knot that doesn't, trap a fiber in the wrong spot. It's a little bit of extra effort, but boy, is it worth it. There we go. Now we have a very clean area for our thread neck. Just make sure we do our due diligence and get that as strong as we can. Time for that whip finish. So again, this is how we are trying to emulate the successful brined or cured prawn. And by all means, add your own elements. Make this your jig. Add the colors have worked for you in the past, whatever it might be. Make it a little brighter. I don't know how you would. Or you can make it a little calmer. It's definitely a possibility. The key is make sure you tie a couple of these and go fish them. And if you don't tie jigs and you are only going to tie this as a fly, it's very easy to translate this into a fly. Simply a different hook and bead system. So don't be afraid. You don't have to feel guilty for watching a jig video. All this translates very easily from jig to fly. And conversely, all of our fly videos work very well tied as jigs. So there you have it. A lot of fluff, a lot of movement, and I mean tons of great movement. And that is a wicked looking prawn jig. I hope you guys enjoyed. I always have fun tying with you. So do me a favor, hit like, hit that subscribe button. We will see you all on the water.